So I'm on my way to an event, but before I go, a 5-point quick breakdown of Donald Trump's tariff announcement against India and why this is a massive shocker. I've also taken off the charger, which was bugging someone in the previous video. So Donald Trump was doing his first address in this term at a joint session of US Congress, and while he was addressing Congress, he basically called out India for being a tariff abuser. And this is something that made us all sit up and notice, because India has gone out of its way, like I told you in previous videos, to sort of pacify America on this particular point. So point number one, what has happened, right? So Trump announced reciprocal tariffs against India and China starting the 2nd of April. Is he avoiding the 1st of April so people don't think it's an April Fool's joke? But on the serious note, the reciprocal tariffs are this: basically, whatever you are charging me, I will charge you. So this is what he has said. Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades. It's now our turn to start using them against those countries. On an average, the European Union, China, Brazil, India, Mexico, Canada, have you heard of them? Countries and countless other nations who have charged us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them. It's really unfair. This is what he said. Now, he then went on to say India charges us auto tariffs higher than 100%. Now, point number two, Trump has called India a tariff king, a tariff abuser in the past. In the last 1 month, during the joint press conference with our Prime Minister in the White House, he said India has been very strong on tariffs. I don't blame them, but there's a different way of doing business. So he's constantly being hinted on the fact that he finds it no longer acceptable that India charge this kind of tariffs to the US, and he said it's a really big problem. India imposes 30, 40, 60, 70% tariffs on some goods. As an example of a 70% tariff, US cars going to India, it makes it impossible to sell those cars. Trump has also said that there is a trade deficit between India and the US of almost $100 billion, which is what he's pointed out. Now, point number three is the fact that there are many things that India imports from the US, and we put tariffs on them, and we export a very different set of things. So in terms of what this reciprocal tariff will actually mean, we don't know. We don't have clarity either from Trump's administration or any sort of response from our government just yet. One expects that our government is still navigating these waters. Remember, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is in America, from what we understand, actually, hammering out the details. So, for example, let's assume Trump is talking about US autos, so US cars and motorcycles coming into India, on which India has a very high tariff of 100%. What will the reciprocal tariff of that look like? Because we don't export cars to the US per se. We export pharmaceuticals, we export IT, we export many other things. So where will that 100% tariff, which product will it land on, and how will it land on? Because there are different tariffs on different products. Is it going to be on basmati rice, for example? We don't know. And these are actually, this is clarity that we are really looking for. Remember, on the 14th of February, when Trump rolled out his plan to increase US tariffs to match tax rates from other countries, he said, and I'm quoting, "I decided for the purpose of fairness that I will charge reciprocal tariff. It's fair to all. No other country can complain." So it doesn't seem from then till now also that the US has clarity on how they're doing this. And so we're going to have to wait to see. Now, let's now, as point number 4, take a look at what the trade scene is between India and the US. India obviously enjoys a trade surplus with the US. During his visit to the White House, the Prime Minister and Donald Trump were negotiating the first phase of an agreement on which they had placed a new goal, saying bilaterally they will take trade up to $500 billion by 2030, I think, which is more than double the $190 billion, which is where the two countries have been trading right at this current point. So really, how is that jump likely to happen if Trump has announced these tariffs after those conversations that our Prime Minister has already had? We don't know. Now, according to US estimates, US total goods trade with India was $129 billion in 2024. of which the US exports to India, so the stuff that we bought from them was about 41 billion, and the stuff we sold to them was about 87 billion. Again, this is nowhere near the trade that US has with Canada, with Mexico, and with China. But for us, it's quite a large chunk. And of course, however this plays out will have an impact on our rupee, because it will impact the dollar demand in our country. Now, finally, looking at those at the impact, Citi research analysts have said that if these reciprocal tariffs are placed, it's likely to cost us potential losses of $7 billion per year. Most vulnerable sectors for India who export to the US are chemicals, metal products, jewelry, automobiles, pharmaceuticals. We manufacture a lot of pharmaceuticals for the West, and food products, according to Citi analysts. India's merchandise exports to the US are expected, estimated at about $74 billion in 2024. This includes pearls, gems, jewelry, pharmaceuticals, like I told you, and a lot of other products, petrochemicals. Remember, India refines a lot of petchem as well. On an aggregate level, India has charged a weighted tariff of about 11% in 2023, 8.2 percentage points higher than what the US has charged us. So, basically, on an average, our tariff is at about 11%, but it's still sharply higher than what they charge us. Now, India has done a great deal to avoid this particular situation so far. We've announced lower tariffs in the budget announcement on the 1st of February. That was almost, preemptive, anticipatory announcement of where we were dropping the tariffs. Officials in New Delhi are discussing duties for automobiles, agricultural products, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, several things that we're buying from the US. We're already discussing bringing those down. Of course, there were conversations that happened when the Prime Minister visited Donald Trump, and Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is in the US right now having these conversations as we speak. But it does seem that in spite of all of this, the tension remains, and Donald Trump, as we have seen, his method of negotiating trade deals or any deal, and his method of bilateral diplomacy is that of a schoolyard bully, where he basically picks up the other kid and shakes that person down and says, I want what I want. And, for his luck, people seem to be giving him what he wants so far. And that brings us to the question of where that leaves India and how much India can afford to cut tariffs if it does for American products. And if American products flood the Indian markets, what happens to Indian made products, and how can we compete with a market that is so advanced in terms of its agriculture, and the fact that they can grow corn and they can grow wheat at the speed at which they can. What happens to Indian farmers if those products flood our market? What happens to Indian manufacturing and small and medium sized enterprise if American products start to flood the market without those tariffs? These are all questions that obviously our government is already seized with. They're trying to figure out, they're working their way. No doubt the government is doing a lot to try and figure this out. But I must point out here that Donald Trump is not, is not playing by the book. So the way sort of international relations have happened up till now is that you would have someone, you'd have track 1, track 2, track 3 negotiations that take place before the heads of state or heads of government actually meet, and then they make announcements. But in this case, it does seem like that system seems to have broken down, and so all of the countries, not just India, are trying to figure out how to navigate this new environment that Donald Trump seems to be leading the world into. So we're going to have to take a look and sort of wait and see how India reacts to this and what the Indian government's reaction is. We've not heard so far. And also, I mean, thankfully, if we take a look at how our market is done today, not bad. Both the Sensex and Nifty, after several days of beatings, have actually recovered about 1%. Interestingly, the leading sector in that recovery has been the IT sector. Autos and minerals. So they're not reacting. So the market has not reacted to this announcement, because remember, India's IT sector, so take an Infosys for example, exports tech or export services to the US and to the West. But it does seem like our stock market has not reacted to this right now and as of today. Today is Wednesday, so it's still Thursday and Friday trade left. So we're going to wait and see how this, how the Indian government responds and if the stock market has a further response. And I'll bring you those updates as and when it happens. But today I have to run to this event. But here's my quick breakdown for you. Leave me a comment in the comment section on how you believe, hypothetically speaking, the Indian government should respond to this announcement from Trump. Do you think it's a threat? Do you think it's bullying? Or do you think that this is just the new way of the world? Also remember guys, before I let you go, like, share, subscribe, and we have a membership on YouTube. If you can sign up for that membership, it'll be really helpful for us. Thanks for watching.